today's event also on our behalf. I'm Niko Natek from the Energy Agency of Savinska, Shaleshka and Koroshka region. And today I will make just a short overture of why we are here and what we want to achieve within the procuRE project. Our organization has taken over the role of the project coordinator and leader of the buyers group, whereby one of the demonstration sites is a public building that is located on the territory of our main founding municipality, the city municipality of Velenje. We also have representatives from some of the other cities that bravely decided to join this ambitious endeavor with their own pilot buildings. Therefore, I would like to invite everyone present from the buyers group to turn on their mic and camera and say hello to our attendees.
Hello.
Hello, all together.
Hello, everyone. Hello from Eilat.
Excellent. Just to put a face to the name. So thank you very much to the partners, and also thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the interest in the opportunity we bring to you today. Here are the list of representatives that will be taking over the majority of the presentations today. So you already know me, and we will introduce the other speakers a bit later. We have quite a lot to cover, so without further ado, I would like to commence the presentation. So today's event is structured into 5 individual sections. First off, we'll concisely provide some information on the PCP tender that has just been recently launched, its main aspects and structure. Then we will go into more detail by saying a few words about the challenge brief, which is arguably the most important part of the tender documentation itself, at least from a content perspective. It contains, among other things, technical criterions as well as commercial feasibility and project management criterions. And of course, the information about the demonstration buildings themselves and some reports from the open market consultations carried out this year. Anyway, this will be presented in detail by our expert. The next part of the presentation will deal with the terms of participation and the submission process, which is mostly correlated to the requests for tenders. One of the other essential parts of the documentation. And we also will include a dedicated sections for question and answers, where you are very much invited to inquire or comment on the issues related to the procuRE PCP. And then we intend to conclude the event with a matchmaking session on the Wonder virtual platform. So again, your active participation is very much appreciated. And as I mentioned before, what brings us here today, the main focus of the project is to cover 100% of existing energy demand of 6 pilot buildings located in and outside the EU. Equip them with novel renewable energy technology that will enable them to meet this goal. As you can see on the left, these include buildings from Barcelona, Spain, Eilat in Israel, Istanbul from Turkey, Nuremberg, Germany, Velenje, Slovenia, this is our pilot building, and Vila Nova de Gaia, that is a part of Porto in Portugal. The above mentioned public authorities together manage a total of 21,000 buildings, just about, which also represents enormous potential for replication and follow-up, a market, if you will, for suppliers that will be the most successful in the development of their renovation packages. For this purpose, there will be 7.68 million euros available to the participating suppliers, and these will be allocated through a 3-phase competition. Roughly speaking, these buildings fall under 2 main categories. Either they can be classified as office buildings or schools and perhaps other types of educational institutions. Of course, the common challenge of the PCP is, as mentioned before, is to eliminate the offsite supply of energy from distribution networks, be it district heating or electricity grid, to the existing buildings, and replace that with on-site production from renewable sources. We, as the buyers group, defined the problem, which I think elaborated sufficiently. So we are looking for novel solutions that will help us drive energy renovation, and at the same time to enable public buildings to actually be suppliers of energy. And this should also increase the potential to carry out such renovation projects in terms of economic and environmental sustainability. And the suppliers, so the companies that will bid for the tender, you will actually, based on the content that is available within the challenge brief, you will develop the solutions by yourself that meet the challenges that are described in detail. So we are not favoring any type of technology. We're not saying you have to use PV or that you have to utilize heat pumps or whatever. This is totally on you. We are technology neutral. We just want the technology to work and that it's possible to demonstrate it in a real life setting. And this is, in a nutshell, how the process will look like. So we successfully concluded phase 0, whereby we analyzed the public buildings, the pilot buildings in detail. We provided information that will be relevant to the suppliers. We designed and prepared all the tender documents, and now finally we were successful in launching the tender that is now officially open to you. The call for tenders will be open till the 22nd of February. And then we will have 1 month to evaluate the proposals, upon which the best ones will be taken into the next phases of the PCP project process. I'm sorry. So for phase 1, in the initial evaluation, 6 suppliers will be chosen, and almost 2,000 euros. 200,000 euros will be available to each to develop their concept, their renovation package, their approach. For this, they will have 3 months time to do it, and upon which we will again move to the second phase, whereby from the 6, 4 of the best solutions, 4 suppliers will be chosen. We will provide over 500,000 euros to each, and the main scope of the activity will be
Nico, you're
muted.
muted now. I don't know what happened.
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened. Can you hear me now?
You missed the last 10 seconds.
10 seconds. Okay, so I think we were moving on to phase 2. So whereby from the 6, 4 suppliers will be chosen. More than 500,000 euros will be provided in order to develop prototypes. So something that is already tangible and can function. And from the 4, 2 of the most of the best solutions, the most eloquently and best defined renovation packages, the package that offer the best output in terms of our evaluation criteria, will be chosen to move on to phase 3, whereby suppliers will be asked to fully develop the systems and equip the demonstration sites that are included in the project. Also, the solutions and systems will be then required to operate for a prolonged period of time, in which we will validate the systems and provide some and collect some initial data about their operation. And this concludes the PCP project. So it's very, very ambitious, but we're confident that with the team we have on board, the commitments taken on by the suppliers, and of course the experience of the suppliers that have already started to cooperate on the matchmaking platform, I'm pretty confident that this is possible. So this basically concludes the introductory part. I would like now to give the word to Dr. Roberto Fedrizzi from your ROC research. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nico. See if I can take control. Do you see myself moving slides to 11? Okay, good. Thanks again, Nico. As I said, my name is Roberto Fedrizzi, and I coordinate a research group at URAC Research that which deals with sustainable heating and cooling systems, in which we focus mainly with integrating heating and cooling systems that have compression heat pumps at the center. In this project, in this presentation, again, I will go into a little more detail compared to what Nico did with respect to the technical perspective. As we said already, we are not looking for a one-off solution. So we're not looking for retrofitting 6 buildings, but we are looking to developing a full new approach towards 100% renewable retrofit of public buildings. And we want to do it through developing by doing or while doing process, which is this all PCP process that Nico started introducing. The approach which we are looking for looks into, as I already said, looks into retrofitting public buildings to 100% use of renewable energy sources for local energy sources, for covering heating, cooling, and electricity supplies to the building. And again, we are not looking into having one specific single technology that solves the problem. Rather, we are looking into one package of solutions that can somehow solve the entire problem of the building. For this, we expect to get suppliers modeling the integration of different components into a solution, into a package which is sustainable from the environmental, energy, and investment perspective. And again, we hope, and this is not a must, but again, it is expected, it is hopefully seen through in the next months, that suppliers are going to use BEAM quite a lot. And this is because on the one hand, in BEAM, you can introduce the results of the modeling effort and all the planning effort indeed. On the other hand, we see BEAM as a way to share with procurers and reviewers of the suppliers project BEAM is a way to share all this information with procurers and reviewers in a way that then they can, on the one hand, understand the project itself and the different implementations that can eventually be commissioned sooner or later. On the other hand, BIM can be used to work together to the development of the project itself. As you can see here, let's see if I can. As you can see here, one of the topics which we would like to tackle to the different phases is this co-design procedures, co-design procedure, as we named it, which is the procuREs are not expecting to get a final plan for the retrofit of their buildings. Rather, after a few months, rather they would like to go through the design process in a cooperative way, meaning that they expect to collaborate with the suppliers all through the design process to go to get to the final result. Again, what we would expect is that suppliers also look into the financing of the project in one or the other way, which Nico already mentioned, not defined at all, because we expect the suppliers again are bringing forward their own proposals. So once more, as I said already, we are not expecting to get one technology which is solving everything. Rather, we expect to have a package of solution which is offered and put on the table, developed together with the procuREs, in a way that through the months we come to an agreed solution with the suppliers. Just to go a little more in some more details, during the project writing, we individuated 8 main challenges, so to say, which derive from shortcomings that we have noticed from previous retrofit actions that the procuREs have implemented in their daily business life. And we aggregated them into 3 main blocks. The blue blocks that are somehow related to implementing components properly, which is on the one hand, we want to have suppliers brainstorming and thinking of what are the best energy generation solutions into the buildings, which could be easily used and replicated over the building stock of the procuREs. We would like also to have energy storage capacity accounted for, so that renewables that are produced locally do not account too much for energy grids to balance out the generation and utilization of renewable energy. And finally, what we would like to see is how these different components, say generation and storage, are used properly through an energy management system set up in the building. This from the single components categories perspective. On the other hand, however, as I said already several times now, we do not want to look for just a bunch of technologies suggested to procuREs. We want to suppliers also to think of how the different components are going to be organized into a system package. And we want to, in the end, receive a system package design. So we want to have the entire plan available by the end of the project. Meaning that we want to see how the different components are working together, are set up together, sized together, and then managed together. For this, we don't only look into the mechanical part of the project, so how the different components are fitting one with the other. What we want to also look into is how they are monitored and managed. So we expect also to get a package in, or say, in the system package, we also expect to have integrated a monitoring and management solution. And finally, we expect to have this, say, financing solution, which can be an EPC, can be any other financing solution that the suppliers can imagine. Indeed, the buildings are places where people work in and study in. So again, the solution we expect to receive is not simply a technical solution. It must be something that accounts for the people that are there. And again, what we would like to have is proposals that take into consideration comfort and well-being on the one hand. On the other hand, what we would like to get is also a perspective on how the suppliers will train and educate occupants to using the systems that are installed, and again to make them aware of how what they should expect on the one hand, and how they should use the buildings that are retrofitted. To take into consideration all this information and all these requests, what we have done is to prepare a challenge brief that you find in the tender portal now, as of yesterday, in which we, on the one hand, describe the context. So what is the gap that we individuated and why we are bothering suppliers with requests. On the other hand, we also describe the challenge. So what is the kind of solution that, what the solution that we expect should include and cover, based on the context that you find described. Starting from context and challenge, then we also describe what we expect as a result of the single planning phases that I will go into in a moment, both in terms of plans that should be presented to the procurers and reviewers, and in terms of KPIs that should be calculated and based on models of the heating and cooling systems. This from the technical perspective. From the evolution of the problem, I do not know if you see it well. I see it a bit blurry and fuzzy. From the execution of the collaboration, so the elaboration of the collaboration, the tender has been published yesterday on TED. So we are here at the beginning of the proposal phase, and in this phase that is going to last until end of February, 22nd of February, as you have seen previously by Nico. What we expect is to have suppliers providing their idea on the renovation approach. So it is not requested in this initial pre-design phase, so to say, that suppliers submit plans of the renovation of the buildings. What we want to get is an idea, an overview, perception of the ideas that you on the measures that you would like to implement later on in the 6 buildings. Only after this pre-design phase, and this is going to start in March, April, if I'm not mistaken, next year, we will have the real design phase starting, divided mainly in two phases. So phase one, which is the solution design, in which we expect to have a schematic design of the retrofit of the building by the end of this design time frame. Starting next is the prototype development phase, how we call that, in which we expect to have the detailed design of the retrofit to be implemented, and eventually we expect that supplier would like to go on to some laboratory tests or on-site tests of some specific technologies that are not yet on the market and that need to be developed before or demonstrated a bit more before they go on site and are implemented on site. Phase 3 is the installation and operation that is going to end the project. All through these phases, what we expect again is a continuous improvement of the design, from the concept through the schematic, through the detailed, until the constructive design and installation. And what we also expect, again, as I said before, is that there is a close collaboration between the suppliers and the procurers. How we see this co-design procedure is that after this renovation approach phase, which is the actual one, lasting until February next year, what we expect is that we will identify some consortia. It is not needed that we get consortia participating, but given the complexity of the challenge and the different approaches, multiple approaches that need to be implemented, probably we expect that there will be some or a few consortia participating, made of partners and subcontractors. What we expect is that the suppliers lead will interact with the procurers with meetings in order to refine the design and take decisions in terms of refine the design based on procurers requests and expectations and on the other end to take decisions in terms of how to progress with the design itself. Same concept seen from another perspective with another schematic. Here you see the process phase. We are in the call for tender approach proposal phase. What you see is that this phase is going to last the next 3 months. So we are in months -3 to 0. The design phase will last 3 months for the first schematic design. So April, May, June next year. After that, we are going to have a longer phase lasting something like 8 months, in which the suppliers will go through a detailed design process and test technologies eventually if needed, while the installation and operation is foreseen for 2023 and will last 16 months until the end of the project, in which we expect not only to have the installation of the renovation packages, but also the commissioning, proper optimization and operation of the same packages. What we would like to have is that through this pre-initial phase of the initial, say, proposal phase, we select 6 suppliers that go through the design of the 6 demonstration buildings. After the phase 1, we will select 4, and in the end, we will select 2 suppliers that will go through the renovation, through the actual renovation. Going into what the buildings are, here you see the 6 buildings, and obviously in the challenge brief and the documentation that you can find on TED, you will find much more than this, obviously. On the left, you see 3 schools, one in Velenje in Slovenia, Nuremberg, Germany, and one in Porto, or near Porto in Portugal. And on the right, you see 3 office buildings. The first in Barcelona is a municipal one, and the last one in Eilat in Israel, former airport, which is going to be transformed into an office plus makers place plus exhibition center. Those are going to be conventional office buildings. The central one in Istanbul is a mixed use office with offices on the one end, but also a bakery school included. So again, in Istanbul, we have a building which is somehow in between an office and a school. So these are the 6 buildings to be renovated, and that are going to be part of the design process starting March next year, or April next year, sorry. For now, as we acknowledge that in 3 months, 3 months are a very short time to develop a renovation approach for the 6 buildings located, by the way, in very different climates, from Nuremberg down to Eilat in the south, would be extremely complex and difficult. On the other hand, because we see a complexity in judging proposals if they're applied to very different buildings and very different climates, what we said is that for this initial phase, suppliers should forget about the 6 real buildings, and they should apply their own proposals, or they should focus their own proposals to these 2 reference buildings that are located in 2 different climates. So once more, if I'm not mistaken, Istanbul and Nuremberg. Why reference buildings? Because in this way, everybody, all suppliers, will look at the same buildings, simplified, with very clear indications on operations, on operation boundary conditions in terms of weather condition, internal gains, and everything, so that it is going to be easy to calculate loads on the one end. On the other end, it is going to be easy to define what are measures to be implemented. And from the procurers and reviewers side perspective, it is going to be somehow easier to judge whether one solution is better than the other, is more replicable, it is adapting better to different kind of climates. So once more, in this proposal phase, suppliers are not going to look into retrofitting or planning the retrofit of the 6 real buildings. The suppliers are requested to focus on these 2 reference buildings and again 2 climates for which we provided specific information annexed to the challenge brief, again all available on the TED portal by the European Commission. And with this, I would conclude the technical description, and I would hand over to Georg, if you agree.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Roberto. Thank you very much, Nico. Yeah, I will jump into the terms and submissions. So it's basically split in two sections, first regarding the terms and then the submission. I will speed up a little bit because we're slower than expected. The last OMC has been a while, so yeah, I guess a lot of new things came in you might not have heard, and we underestimated this in preparation of this webinar. A small note on why the publication was delayed, not because of the content, not because of anything I'm going to present now. It was exactly terms, a small detail with the EC on a very formal matter. So apologies if you have been waiting for a month and a half. Yeah, as always, checking with all small detail is important to simply make sure that everything is going smoothly. And yeah, this brings us to the terms. And basically, small reminder, this is a PCP. You don't need to understand PCP in full. We have described everything necessary in the call text and in the tender documents. What is important to know is simply that it is competitive and that many suppliers will get a chance in the beginning and the fewer suppliers, at least two, get the chance at the end. Regarding the prospect of this project, the ideal scenario is the solutions you're going to develop, the approaches you're going to develop are completely competitive and they are completely market competitive at the end of the project. This would be obviously ideal. Should this not be the case, it is very likely that we will then follow up with the so-called PPI. Another funding instrument by the EC, which helps to bridge the gap between development and market competitiveness, marketability. Then the procurers will receive some funding, not as much as they receive now, and could procure more, a higher number of implementations, and thereby allowing the developers to basically scale up and become more competitive. As a summary, again, with all details this time, the overview of what is going to come and expected. Right now, we are in the call for tender in the proposal phase. So you are developing the renovation approach. You convince us of the way you see how renovations should be in the future, how they should be conducted, what kind of technologies, plural, should be included from the various elements, from management, storage, renewable production, and so on. How you fit them together, how you design them together, how you are going to roll them out. And as Roberto stretched, it's not one solution, it's not not one lighthouse or whatever. Please think basically on what is your offering. How would you go about if you had all the resources in the world to renovate many buildings across Europe? We do it with 6 here, but the idea is basically that you describe how it should be done for thousands or millions of buildings across Europe. And the beauty of a PCP is that you can trial it through the project with a lot of feedback from those who are going to procure it. And so if you enter phase 1, you have interaction with the procurers to basically tweak what needs to be done in the renovation approach, to tweak your first renovation package, from which you will also learn yourself that this does not fit yet. I improve the renovation approach for the next call off. And in this iterative process, we are basically getting closer and closer to the optimal outcome. And this is basically what is going to be expected from you. The graphic is very shocking at first, but it is easy. And I'd like to assure you that we demand from you not a lot of deliverables to basically for the deliverables sake. On the contrary, 90-something% of the effort is really exactly what we are asking for. Yeah? So in the call for tender, you, based on the technical offer, it is a template in the package, you will write your proposal. The offer contains the renovation approach, your renovation approach, plus another few sections, like on innovativeness, like you're going to conduct the project management, simply because we also need to be able to evaluate whether you are able to run a project of such magnitude, and commercial feasibility. Yeah, basically how you would scale this up. So this offer is then basically split in phase 1 in 2 documents. You take a copy, you delete something out of one and keep it in the other. D11 is your renovation approach. You already started with it, you continue to develop it throughout the project, and the other sections become your part of your offer for the next phases. If you wonder how is this conducted from phase 1 to phase 2, basically towards the end of the, I should put a laser pointer on, towards the end of the phase, you will hand in the offer for the next phase, and yeah, based on the offers, we select the for to remain and so on. And this continues. Why does my arrows not work? Okay, this continues throughout the project. You continue to work on the document, you submit a version here and there, and obviously towards the end of the phase. Starting in phase 1, you start to develop the renovation packages. So you have the renovation approach, and the application of your renovation approach to a specific building is your renovation package. So the designs, the plans, which are true for this given building, because every building has a different size, it has different surfaces, it has whatever. And hence, even if you use exactly the same technology in school 1 and school 2, the size will differ and the way you link it up will differ, etc., etc. So the renovation package, you start in phase 1 and you improve the degree of detail and the ultimate description towards the end. The documentation throughout the operation. And then there is a little bit more. The continuous commissioning and co-design is basically nothing more but a reporting on what you've done in the co-design procedure. If you want, it is minutes or takes from the meetings, something you would do anyway, simply compiled in a deliverable. And then there is prototype testing. You will at least test your ICT system, so any forms of interaction with the professionals or the users in the building, we will test it simply to get also user feedback. And if you have any devices, you have the opportunity in this call to develop specific devices, but we generally expect that the majority of technologies exist and you simply combine them and make the thing whole. Basically provide us with an input on how you're going to make them work together. And obviously, as always, there needs to be reporting. It's A and B. And A is an abstract, basically, of your proposal we will publish and also disseminate widely. We will do a lot to make you publicly known. And B is basically ex post report on what the project was, simply as a preparation of your invoice. So again, the majority of the work will be up here. This you will do anyway, and it feeds up there. So we do not ask from you any kind of deliverables which will bind resources. You will be working on what you want to develop. Okay, as to the terms. Financial offers, you can bid up to the ceiling. It is D7 contracting. We will use a framework agreement. The templates, the drafts of which are part of the proposal package. There's a framework agreement across all 3 phases, and for each phase there's a specific contract. To evaluate the results within the project, not the proposal, within the project, there is 2 terms. Satisfactory means this is good, you get paid, but you need to be successful to be actually eligible for the next phase. So I don't know, if you just scrap the bar, yeah, that you've done your job, it's good enough, but maybe not induces trust in that you will be able to do the next level. So we expect obviously development throughout the project and yeah, ambition. And intellectual property, obviously the most important thing. Though it is an R&D contract, you will be able to keep the ownership on the IPR. Yeah, we give you money to develop something and it doesn't go over to us, which would be normal. You can keep the IPR provided you will use it within 4 years' time, which should be normally the case. As to the criteria, any kind of operator can bid. Yeah? There's no limitations. Any kind of consortium is allowed. Single entity, joint, and subcontracting. No limitations. The one limitation is that 50% of the R&D funding activities budget have to take place within the EU or associated countries. The only exception is basically if someone would come from the US and try to do everything there. But it's hardly possible because they have to do stuff here, and surely there are also offices in Europe. Then an important remark, when you start thinking about the proposal, you will note that there are 6 sites. Do I need to have all the subcontractors at hand during the proposal who will conduct the work, who will lay the cable, install equipment, and so on? You do not. Yeah, you have to provide a way of how you're going to select them, and we will probably support you in phase 2 should you not have them yet. Basically, name who we know or who has been suggested. But this isn't called phase 2. Yeah, you don't need to solve this implementation problem for the proposal. Focus on the renovation approach. And any participation prior is not a pre-requirement to join. Then submission is electronically via S-Procurement. That's our tendering platform in Slovenia. Everything has to be in English. The proposals have to be complete, otherwise they're not eligible. That's simply the rules. The proposals need to plan all phases. So this means that your work plan is kind of thought through, that your budget is thought through towards the end. It doesn't mean that it is final. Only unit prices are fixed, but you need to plan beyond phase 1, and the deadline has been mentioned. There is an FAQ on the website. Yeah, it is for information. Ultimately, everything which matters is on the tendering platform. Obviously, that's the only official communication part of the project. Towards the submission. So there are a few documents you definitely have to read, and these are these 2 documents. This is a request for tender, basically describing the rules and the expected outcome, all the things I just described, and then the challenge brief, what Roberto described before. This is what we want solved. The application is predominantly these 3 documents, a technical template where we kind of guide you. I come to this in a second, what you need to fill in, the financial, obviously a budget, and some admin stuff. It is a public procurement, A, it is a European public procurement, B, so there are certain requirements, but we have prepared all the documents. We are not requesting from you that you go to some weird website and create a declaration of honor from it. We give it to you. There's a template. Same for the power of attorney. The self-identification is something which is standardized by the EU, so we don't provide it, but there is a link towards it. All provided in the document, and I'm sure you have talented people who can do the admin stuff, and you have the talented people who do the technical stuff. And FYI, the contract templates, actually, they would need to be signed if you win during with start of phase 1. Another important thing where we help you to reduce the effort required, we have aligned everything we could. One of the things, and this is important to understand, is that the award criteria, yeah, there are 10 of which in 3 groups, are the headlines in the challenge brief and in the technical application template. So there are 3 criterion which group other sub-criterions, technical, commercial, project, and you will find the same headlines here, here, and here. Underneath, you will find another level of headlines, which is identical to the sub-criterion we are going to rate. So what you're going to describe here in the template, based on the challenge we have described in the challenge brief, we will evaluate based on the weight assigned in the award criteria. So you always know how much impact whatever you write is going to have. and where it belongs. No need, if you have ever tried to answer an EC tender where you need to first work 2 weeks to sort out what is actually requested, it is all laid out here in this tender. In fact, in the technical application template, it also contains detail regarding what kind of input could be required. Let's say there's a work plan table and so on. Some of it is mandatory, some of it is recommendation. You can judge. You are free to write your own proposal, but certain things are obviously expected. Let's say a work plan, for instance. So the timeline. Sorry for overshooting already. I'm almost done. The timeline. We are here, yeah, obviously in this event at this time. And there will be 2 more workshops. One on the focusing on the technical part and one focusing on the administration and financial part. And ultimately, this is a submission deadline. In the meantime, you can always ask questions via the procurement platform, and we have a deadline also to answer to you, so you will have enough time to respond to it. And then some point the project starts with the notification of the results, and then you will have to be quite quick or able to jump into the project. This is for reasons of timing and also representative of the challenge, if you want, by design. If the renovation wave is supposed to start, then all these delays which are currently happening have to disappear. So including the design organizations and implementation, those who renovate have to have a certain schedule ready and ability ready to do the design work. We will support you in creating consortia. After this event, there's the matchmaking on WonderMe, but there's also the form. I believe the majority of those who attend have filled it. If you haven't filled it, fill it in. Not only fill it in, visit it to search for people. What is amazing, really amazing, is how many entries are willing to do a coordination. So it's almost impossible for a partner not to find a proposal, a consortium. Yeah, now, often this is a limiting factor. Who would be actually willing to take responsibility and charge of the project? Here, there is choice beyond choice. Yeah, so if you're a partner, you have a technology, but you don't know who, you can't run it yourself. There are enough coordinators for you to search and pick from. After this, the matchmaking event, and obviously the most important date for you. It's a very beautiful date. Many children will be born and many people will get married. And we are looking for this date and the day after to open your proposals and to actually work and read through them. Are there any questions? There's the question in the chat whether international consortia have an advantage with respect to others in the selection process. The answer is yes and no, not by design, but if it is not foreseen, but if it suggests that this consortium has the ability to work across countries and in all the countries where site will have to be renovated. So it's probably beneficial in the project management section where you have to be viable and capable. Yeah. But it does not mean that anyone who's only one organization cannot convince us that they are also capable and viable option. Yes, site visits. Actually, they are foreseen. Yeah, in phase 1, you will be expected to visit the sites and to look through, to make your own designs. Within the proposal, there's information about the buildings, but it is informative. Yeah, we cannot. I don't know. You have to make your designs. You have your own specs. Any supplier who wins, we cannot be guaranteed that certain spec requirements are fulfilled by any information we provide, no matter how thick the documentation. In phase 1, we are in fact expecting that suppliers visit the sites, take their own survey, and be able to check. And throughout the project, in good relationship with the procuREs, it is possible to organize another meeting should it be necessary, or another visit if it is necessary. This should not be a limitation.
Actually, we can go to Istanbul quickly because we're based in Istanbul, Tech and Engineering. I'm speaking on behalf of. But considering the current conditions regarding COVID, maybe we can't go to other sites. So this will be a negative effect, or I know we can participate with other youth.
Okay, you mean during the proposal? During the proposal, you don't have to. Yeah, there's no need during the proposal to do it. If you understand the buildings, then your renovation approach is generic. Yeah, it should apply to any of the buildings. So just these buildings should not, I don't know, let's say, limit your vision on how to do it. Yeah? It is necessary in phase 1, which starts in April, and world will be different then. And should COVID rules still apply, then obviously we will have to mitigate. But for work, I believe travel will always be different.
Now, currently, modular solutions will be okay. I understand. Thank you.
The reference buildings, which we will introduce at the next webinar. Would language be a barrier for co-creation? No. I mean, everybody here in the consortium, we are an international project. We are doing the project together in English, and English is the language you'll always be able to speak to in the team. If you're capable of local languages, it's obviously an advantage, but in principle, English is the language, and you will always have at least those involved in the project able to relay any information also from third sources which might not be able to speak English. What if 6 suppliers are not contracted for phase 1? Would this affect the number of suppliers for the next phases? Well, now we are entering technical level in the PCP world. Yeah, it's also described in the request for tender, just to be clear, but the procedure is the following. Let's say, no, actually, money which is not spent in any given phase is basically gone. We cannot carry over funding from one phase to the other, because the total budget has been sealed. Yeah, so this is not possible. From phase 1 to phase 2, there is no transfer of funding. But within the phase, it is still possible that the numbers we indicate can be higher. This can happen if, let's say, during phase 1, for whatever reason, the suppliers all bid so low that there is money for the 7th, then we would obviously contract the 7th. But just because there is someone not chosen in the phase 1, it is not carried over to phase 2. It is forbidden by the EC guideline. And the fact that we have made public the conditions of the contract, and we cannot change the conditions of the contract. We can apply for all 6 buildings. Okay, that's needs. So in the beginning, you apply to be part of the project. Yeah, so you are to develop the renovation approach, and then in phase 1 and phase 2, you are to develop the renovation package for each of the 6 buildings. During phase 2, at the end of phase 2, you hand in your offer for phase 3. This is also for any of the 6 buildings, but you will be allocated 3. Yeah, exactly how, not known yet. Yeah, we will. The procuREs will assign them. There's only one clarity. Everybody, each of the 2 will have to do 1 school or 1 office. Yeah, so it will be 2-1, 2 offices or 2 schools, and the other one is clear. So again, there will be 2 more webinars, one focusing on the technical part. So basically where you can, by then, I hope you all have read the challenge brief. So you can ask the questions regarding the challenge brief. What did we mean with that? What did we not mean with that? Be prepared to hear often it is your call, yeah, that we will not explicitly answer. But nevertheless, it is good to clear and clarify and verify. It might be that we somehow, I don't know, basically missed something, missed some aspect. I in principle believe that the challenge brief is a very good document describing the problem. So even if you choose not to ultimately bid, please keep it as a reference. I think describes what the issue is and why we are failing in a transition in the buildings domain. And yeah, then there will also be a webinar for the admin and financial people, which might not be you or might be someone else. No matter, inform them. Yeah, if you're going to bid, inform them that they book their time there. It will be again 1 p.m. every time, and the dates are in the review. So if there are no questions, okay, sorry, to be complete, there are the webinars, and obviously via as procurement, you can always ask us questions. Yeah, we will answer as soon as we can. As soon as you follow the procedure, you will be notified if anyone else asks.